Welcome back to Django e-commerce series. In this video part 3, we are going to focus on setting up the template for our project and configuring Tailwind CSS, start styling our pages. If you haven't watched the first two parts yet, I highly recommend going back and checking those out. In part 1, we covered the project introduction, and in part 2, we separated our development production settings. In today's video, we will dive into the template structure for Django and get Tailwind fully set up to start building our site's frontend. If you are ready to take your e-commerce project to the next level, let's get started. In the previous episode, we had separated our settings and we had development settings in its own file, you can see here, and as well production settings on a different side. So we have this base.py file. This is a file that holds settings that are common for both development and production. Let's get started. Let's start by configuring a template directory. So first thing you need to do, a template folder at the root of the project. So I will create a folder called templates and then scroll down to templates list, and then there is these dials, means directories. Then right here is where we will tell Django where to find our templates. So we want Django to find our templates at base directory at a folder called template. So the reason why I've added these two dots and slash is this is basically to tell Django, like, from this file, you can see this file is inside settings.py. We want you to get out of this folder settings. Outside this folder, that is where you will get our file called templates. So if our settings file by default is located here, we could have not added two dots and hash. So this is escaping the direct. If we did not add these two, and then Django will look for this folder templates inside our setting folder. So that is why we added this to tell Django, like, move out of this folder, then get our folder called templates, get our templates inside there. Inside the templates, so this is where we will house all our templates. The next thing we need to do is install Tailwind CSS, but before we install Tailwind CSS, we need to configure our static files, because we will have output CSS which will be used in our template. Let me create first a page and see if Django is getting our templates from templates directory. So let me create an app called pages, Django app, and let's call that app pages. Once you create any app, you also make sure to include that app inside our installed app list. So let's include that, call it pages. Okay, so inside pages, so let's create a home page. Let's create a function called home, and then takes a request. So home.html. Okay, same folder inside our app. Let's create URL file, urls.py, and say from Django.urls, import path, and then let us import the function that we just created here, this function. So I like to say raw dot import views from dot import views. This dot means, like, inside where this urls.py is residing, we want to import a file called a view. And then in our URL pattern, we shall have path views.home. Remember, home is the function that we have defined inside our views. Okay, so that same function is the one that we have called. And now, since we have these URLs in our pages, now we need to include these URLs in our main project URL right here. So we need, first of all, to import function called include, and then we need to include those URLs. So paths, then include pages.url. So we have included that path right here. So let us create the template. Let us create this template home.html, home.html. So the best way to do, we don't want to scatter our templates inside this template. Let each app have its own templates. So the thing I will do is to create another folder inside templates and call that folder pages. So this folder called pages will hold all templates for this app called pages. So inside these pages, let me now tell Django where to find home.html. So pages slash home.html. So inside pages, we will create home.html. Hit enter, and then let's have HTML5 boilerplate, and then say, let's say h1 home. Okay, home like that. Now, if I start my server, let me run the server, python manage.py run server. And then go to our browser, we should get home. Okay, so that means we have told Django where to find our templates. So that means it is working. So what we did is we configured templates directory, told Django like we want you to get our all of these project templates inside this directory, which is on the project root, get all our templates. And in our views, we also find a function called home, which will render a template from pages slash home.html, of which this directory will be found inside templates folder. We created that folder inside our templates folder, and then created that home.html template inside. Then we created as well app URLs, created these URLs and gave it a name home. And then we included that URLs inside our project URL. And that is how we managed to achieve this. So the next thing we need to do is let us install Tailwind CSS. Okay, so first of all, you need to go to Tailwind CSS, tailwindcss.com. Okay, from the documentation, that is where we will use the documentation to install Tailwind CSS in our Django project. So the first thing we need to do is install Tailwind CSS. I will just copy this exactly as it is. Copy it and go to my terminal. Let me close this. Okay, clear this, copy and then paste it and run. Okay, so we give it some few seconds to install. Once it has installed, we need to configure Tailwind CSS in our project. You can see once it has installed, tailwind.config.js file was generated automatically. So let's open that. Let me close my file. So these are other files. Let me close them. So here we want to tell Tailwind CSS where to find our templates so that it can apply its stylings. Okay. So what we will do is tell Tailwind CSS that get our .html files, all of them in our folder called template, okay, and any other folders inside templates folder, and any file that has .html extension, apply those stylings there. Having done this, the next thing we need to do is create a folder called static, and now we need to configure static, how Django will handle static files. Static files are those files that do not change dynamically. So files like images or files like CSS files, JavaScript files, those are considered static. And inside static, let me define a folder called CSS. So this folder will have our CSS files, and then inside that CSS file, let me have input.css file. So I have created a static folder, and inside that static folder, I've created another folder called CSS. And inside that, this CSS folder will contain all CSS files. Inside this CSS folder, I have created input.css file. This is the file that will get the Tailwind CSS. So we have configured our tailwind.config.js. This one we have configured it. Okay, and then we are in this part 3, adding the Tailwind directive to your CSS file. Okay, so we need to copy this and go to our static CSS input.css. Okay, and then paste that right there. Okay, we need to run this command right here. Okay, so in Django, before we run that command, let me clear my terminal and then let us run that command. So it is npx. So npx tailwind css installed. You can see I've directed this directory, static css input static, with the input. Okay, and then we have the output. Output will be inside that directory, static css, and then the output file will be output.css. And I have added dash watch. That means whenever there is a change inside our template, the output is automatically updated. So let me run this. You can look at the CSS folder. We had input.css only, and now we have output.css. It has been generated automatically. Okay, so you can see all the stylings that have been generated automatically to include this output.css in our template. So you can decide to add the entire link to it, but I don't want to go to that route. I want us to configure static file handling by Django so that we can load our static inside our templates. Okay, so let's go back to our settings. So let's go to the settings and paste .py, and then inside our settings we need to configure static file. So right here I shall have some media root. Okay, and then let's have static files directory. We are applying the same principle of this. So remember the base.py inside settings, adding these 2 dots and then slash, telling Django like move outside this directory and find a directory called stat. Okay, so in outside settings, that is where static directory is. And then we need to define static root now, have static root. And then lastly, we need to have media root. The next thing we want to do is I want to use white noise to serve static files in production, because white noise is very good at serving static files in production. So I will install white noise first. I have to install white noise. So to give you more information about white noise allows your web application to serve its own static files, making it a self-contained unit that can be deployed anywhere without relying on NG, Amazon S3, or any other external sub. It is designed to work nicely with CDN for high traffic sites, so you don't have to sacrifice performance to benefit from simplicity. Okay, so white noise works with any WSGI compatible, that is what you see here, compatible app for Django. Okay, so white noise takes care of best practices for you. So for instance, serving compressed content like gzip and proti formats, handling accept encoding and vary headers correctly. So we need to use this white noise because it has a lot of advantages. So once I have installed our white noise, the next thing I need to do is to add its middleware. Ensure that the middleware for white noise is right below the security middleware. Okay, you don't want to place it above security middleware. Okay, so it has to be below security middleware. So what we do is say white noise readware. So right below this, we need to specify static file storage. Okay, so we'll say we want white noise to be our static file storage. So we'll say white noise compressed manifest. Once you add this line, that is white noise dot storage dot compressed manifest static file storage, is telling Django like we want white noise to be the one storing our static files. Okay, this one will be done when we are deploying our project. Once we have done this, the next thing we need to do is collect stats. So what we'll do is in Python. So you can see static files. There is a folder that has been created. Static files have been copied inside. So you can see this is the file. And then now for our template, for it to load our output CSS file so that it can apply those styles inside output CSS, what we can do is load using Django template language, that is Ginger, say load static, and then let us have our static file that we want to be loaded. Okay, so we have loaded static. Now let us create that link. Okay, and there we will see static, and then get that file. Okay, CSS, and then output .css. Okay, so if we go back here and apply Tailwind CSS classes, let's say text red 600. Okay, you can see we already have Tailwind CSS classes being applied. So if I go back to our browser and refresh, we expect these to be in red. Okay, let me run the server. Get to run the server. So let me run the server. Python manage.py, run server. Once the server is run, let me open another tab, UI run server. Okay, we have an issue. I think the issue relies with white noise, the middleware. So let's go back to middleware and see white noise middleware. Okay, so the issue is right here. The N should be capital. So it should be white noise, W capital, and N capital. So it run. So let me open another tab, another terminal, and run npx. Remember, we had added this watch so that whenever we make changes in our templates, it automatically reflects in our output.css so that we don't have to keep on running this command. Okay, so let's see, it will rebuild. Static CSS inbuild does not exist. Okay, let's now change directory to our project. Okay, now let's run the same command and hit enter. It's done. Okay, so let's go back to our browser and refresh. Okay, you can see we have home text is in red. Can as well try to adjust it and say something like text, let's say 5XL. Okay, that's a very big text. Refresh it, you can see we have configured Tailwind CSS. So what are the things that we have learned from this video? One, how to configure templates. Second thing is how to install and configure Tailwind CSS. And another thing that we have learned is how to configure static files and load them into our templates. Okay, you load them in your templates, and that. So one thing before I call this episode the end, let's have template inheritance. Template inheritance. What do I mean? What I mean is inside our templates, let's have a base.html. So base.html. Okay. So all other templates will inherit this template. Okay. Okay. So let me create a boilerplate for this. And inside this base template, let's load our statics. Let's say static. Let's load static, and then let's have our title. Okay, let's say block, say title, and then let's call this Django e-commerce. Okay, and then let's add that. Okay, you will in coming episode we will understand this code right here, and then let's now use our output.css. Then we say static, and then CSS output dot CSS. So we have loaded our output.css, that styles. Okay, and then inside our body, let's use Django template engine, that is Ginger, and same block content. Say block content. Okay, so and let me just say content with you. Content. Okay. So basically, what I'm trying to do is I want to have a base template which has HTML structure of head and body. Okay, and using this template engine. Okay, template engine. I think okay, Django template engine. Okay, we will be able to inherit this structure in every template by just extending this base.html. Okay, so for example, in our home.html, we don't need to have this structure of head body. So I will just remove everything, and then what I will do is extend this base.html. Okay, and say using that Ginger, and say extends, base.html. Okay, and now say block content. Okay, now inside our block content, that is where now I put my HTML tags. Okay, so for example, I'll say head one, let's say home, and then let me use Tailwind CSS classes to style my text, and say text blue 700, and then text 5 exam. Okay, so once we do this, if I go back to my browser and refresh, you will see we still have the same, but the colors changed. Okay, so we have avoided having that structure of head and body. We just inherited that structure from our base.html. Yeah, from our base.html. Okay, we do not have to have all these inside our base.html. So for this title, okay, for it to see how it affects our site, look right here. We have Django e-commerce, then we have a hyphen, which means only this. Okay, so we want whenever a user clicks, for example, we have some navbar links like about us or contact us. So we want this heading to have Django e-commerce. If the user had clicked about us, then about us appear at the end right here. So to achieve this, we need to go back to our home template, which since this is home, template, we will say block and say title. So this page is home page. Okay, home. So if we go back to our browser and refresh, you will be able to see home. Okay, you're able to see home. So to fix that, it hasn't worked the way we expected, because we have these Django e-commerce inside block content. So to achieve the desired results, whereby we have like Django e-commerce, then a hyphen home, we will remove this from inside block title. We cut it and place it outside. Okay, let's have something. Okay, so we will have in our title, we will have Django e-commerce, then the title of that page. So for us in this example is we have home inside block title and block. So this home will be placed inside this and block title. Okay, so if I go back to my browser and refresh, you will be able to see we have Django e-commerce home. Okay, and that wraps up part 3 of our Django e-commerce series. We've successfully set up our templates and configured Tailwind CSS, and as well configured our static files to start styling our website. Things are really starting to take shape now. If you found this helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on the next part of the series, where we will dive even deeper into building out our e-commerce functionality. And if you haven't watched the earlier parts of this series, be sure to check those out to catch up. I've linked them in the description below. As always, thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.